climate of business in the country, particularly regarding the outburst by the Dangote Refinery Chief Executive Officer Aliko Dangote, and of course the impasse has been having with the regulatory agency NMDPRA. We'll be looking at the effort the government is making to douse the tension and bring everyone to the table to see how businesses can grow. So we do have a political economist joining us, Dokole Ijoge, who will be letting us know what this is all about and how Nigeria can deal with the situation. Thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
All right. So what do you make of what is going on really between Aliko Dangote and the NMDPR? Our reviewers this morning did say that, okay, if you're a businessman, an investor in the country, whether local or foreign, you have to, bend to the rules and ensure that you are regulated. And then the regulators as well should also allow businesses to thrive. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I think slightly different from that thought process or perspective. I think that the issue is about the ease of doing business in Nigeria. I appreciate the fact that regulators and operators must stay under the guidance and tutelage of regulators, because every industry and every sector has its own set of laws, and then there's a reason why we have regulators in a particular sector of the economy. But at the same time, I think that when you look at all the issues, I don't think it's a passive issue of the Dangote group refusing to be part of be under the regulators, in all honesty. Because when you look at the Nigerian economy as it is, and especially that petroleum sector, and then by the way, when we even talk about regulation, remember when we had that bad fuel in 2022? Who was presiding over the NMDPRA? Is it not the same people? Is it not the same person? Then you have unverified allegation of Dangote's petroleum products having not meeting industry standard, having too much of sulfur and stuff like that. I don't think that those are the issues. I don't think
You said
so.
It's unverified?
Yes, it's unverified, because you know for a fact that the NMDPRA doesn't have its own laboratory. So why would you just come and make a blanket statement like that when those are not the issues? I think that's a distraction. Now,
but I understand that
the issues.
Dangote himself really admitted to that, saying that he's working towards, getting to the 50. Is it? I don't even know how it is graded now. That is required.
We can do away with all those technical stuff. But you can see when the House of Reps, led by the Speaker, visited the Dangote refinery, you can see what he said. I think that the real issues here is about operating a business in Nigeria and how Nigeria treats its businesses on one hand, and then the second hand is on the inefficiency, corruption that you have in the whole petroleum industry in Nigeria. Now, we have been importing fuel since petroleum products, not only fuel, not only PMS, since the 70s. That's a known fact. And when you look at the numbers, always look at the numbers, follow the money. Nigeria spends about $2.4 billion daily. 2.4 billion on her energy mix. PMS, diesel, jet A1 fuel, kerosene, all that makes about $2.4 billion daily, which comes to about maybe $26 billion, annually. When you look at also on the other side, that Nigeria consumes about 49 million liters of PMS daily, 26 million liters of diesel daily, 1.2 million liters of jet A1 fuel daily, and 1.1 million liters of kerosene daily. And you have a business, an indigenous business, that can do away with your need for dollars and importation. Produce locally. Now here comes the question. I will ask this rhetorically. How come Dangote is getting his crude from outside Nigerian shores? How come NNPC has only supplied to Dangote refinery only 6.9 million liters since they started last year. 6.9 million liters of crude. How come? Now, here's what I think. First and foremost, I think that the inefficiencies and corruption in that sector is showing itself. Secondly, I think that those importing fuel, NNPC is the sole importer of PMS in Nigeria and other petroleum products, that they don't want where they have their chop arrangement to stop. Hence, the way they're kicking against or trying to sabotage. For me, I see an economic sabotage. And then 3, I also strongly think that when you look at the numbers, if we can save this country annually to over 26 billion US dollars, don't you think that Dangote should be our first point of call? You want to call him monopolist, then you license another person. Dangote is not just the richest man in Nigeria and Africa. There are other rich people. How much is that refinery? Is it not 20 billion US dollars? Trust me, Nkoli, there are rich Nigerians that can also invest in that sector. And besides, you are regulating it, so how can you bring this? I think it's just distraction. I think Nigerians should focus on the price, which is the corruption and inefficiency that you have in the whole energy sector, the NNPCL oil sector in Nigeria. There's so much corruption in that place. We just need to do better. It's a shame that you are coming to tell us some unnecessary things about Dangote's products being substandard. Are you not there to regulate it? Then get it up to standard. Then you don't bring it into the Nigerian market. Is that not what a regulator is supposed to do? You check it. If you think it's not up to standard, then you don't allow it to come into the Nigerian market. So those are not the issues. I don't think those are issues. The problem I have with this administration and people that are in top government offices is that they always think that Nigerians are fools and they want to use every opportunity to distract us from the real issues. And I don't think it is fair. Because petrol...
Let me come in here. Let's look at this issue. I mean, because even though you say it's a distraction, it's a conversation that is ongoing.
Yeah.
First, the issue and the accusation of monopoly by the government. People would say that, I mean, because of the microeconomics policy of Nigeria, perhaps it has been more lenient to people like Dangote, for instance, when they mentioned Dangote cement, tax exemption, and, reduced forex rate. But the question of monopoly, when you look at it in all its intentions and purposes, whether we like it or not, there has been that accusation before now. Do you think it's something perhaps that even Dangote himself needs to x-ray? Because currently we saw that he has also hands off the steel production business he wanted to invest in, saying that he no longer wants to be accused as, somebody who's involved in monopoly of the Nigerian government. But isn't it something to look at? One, the microeconomics policy of Nigeria and how it also exempts other factors and personalities.
Well, Adora, when you look at free economy and capitalism, you must always have the likes of Dangote. Even in the US, free economy and capitalism, you must always have them. You must have people that have some level of privileges, depending on which government is in power. In the US, you have the tech giants, Mark Zuckerbergs and the rest of them. Even when you go back into the early 1900s, you have the Rockefeller, you have the Carnegies, you have all those people that are wealthy because that's what capitalism does. That is why my personal preference when it comes to managing an economy is a mix of both. And I don't like this idea of too much big grammar, capitalism, socialism. And I said, no, let's look at our people. Let our economic structural arrangement be based on the cultures, which is the everyday idiosyncrasies of the people. That should be based on. But let me say this to you, Adora. When you talk about monopoly, yes, there's a tendency for some certain people to dominate certain industries because people is capital. They have access to capital, they trust them, and they have built up certain level of structures over the years to access this capital and make profit for themselves and their shareholders. But at the same time, government has a duty and a responsibility for the antitrust tendencies to say you cannot depend solely on a particular individual or establishment. So government needs to regulate. Now, like I said earlier, if it is petroleum, we are saying that Dangote group wants to dominate, then you license other people. Secondly, you can also fix your own refineries. You have Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna refineries. You fix them so as not to wholly depend on Dangote. And then thirdly, you can also import from other sources into the country. So this talk of monopolies, I don't think is a...
So shouldn't privileges really that are extended to certain people be given to everybody, free play ground to ensure competitiveness? So why would some people have more privileges than others in the same market where they operate?
It's called capitalism. Some people dominate it. That's what happens. People have greater and faster access to capital. That's the dangers of capitalism and free economy. That is why we say government must do certain things for people. Certain things, privileges must be given to others to make it a level playing field. Like if you look at crude, the Nigerian oil industry and Nigeria, as it were, since we struck crude in Oloibiri and Afam in 1956, what has been the benefit to Nigeria? Please tell me. When you look at Nigeria, the way Nigeria is structured, when you drive past our interstate roads, you see Sukuk loan, Sukuk. You see this one, you see that. So where is our oil money going? When you are borrowing to build infrastructure, they're just using it to pay salaries. I think that the corruption and inefficiencies that you have in NNPC must be dealt with seriously, because we cannot gamble with our energy mix. The crisis of this hashtag bad governance, the crisis this government administration is going through right now, is because of the increase of the pump price of petrol, the so-called removal of subsidy. And I've always argued differently, that government will always pay subsidies. The reason I say that, you are importing a product that is denominated in dollars. You are importing a product that is, the market is volatile. Today, a barrel of crude is $70. Tomorrow, it is 96. Next tomorrow, it is $50. It is volatile. It is unstable. Now, if your landing costs and you give crude to these IOCs, and by the way, these IOCs, I have to talk about these IOCs. You give, our crude is managed by these IOCs. Then they give us back petroleum products. And it lands, say take PMS for instance, and it lands in Lagos for, I'm just guessing here, it lands in Lagos for 500 naira per liter. Are you going to sell it 500 naira in Kano or in Meduguri or in Sokoto? Who takes care of that logistics? You say you have deregulated. You know, we like using big English. Deregulation of the downstream sector, this one, this. You must pay subsidy to bridge. If government wants to fix the price of PMS, like what is the business of the president? I mean, the subsidy is gone, it's removed. You have no business. I thought that sector was already deregulated for market forces to fix the price. So they are paying subsidy. Look at there's just so much untruth, half lies and propaganda by this administration. Look at the one that's submitted by the Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, the ASAP. He stated in that document that Nigeria will spend 2.4 billion on 24 billion on subsidies in this 2024. Yet they say they have removed subsidy. The truth is, when you don't pay critical attention to the value of the currency, you will always have that difference. So they must pay subsidy. And my personal and genuine opinion is the fact that government must subsidize petroleum products, especially PMS, because the oil wealth that we have has not benefited Nigerians. We're not benefiting from it. What are you using it for? 70% of your budget is to pay salaries for government, to run government. So what are we doing?
All right, Dr. My worry really here is that this is not the first time we're hearing an investor who is an indigenous investor in the country complain. I remember during the days when even the Air Peace CEO was also complaining about, some bottlenecks in him expanding the business and all that. So is there something really that needs to be done to encourage local investors, to thrive, especially at the time when even the foreign investors are leaving the country?
Well, like I said in the beginning, it's about the ease of doing business in this country. A friend of mine pointed out to me about the difficulties in setting up business, whether it's startups or scale-ups in Nigeria. As you are like this now, Nkoli, just get an office, raise a signboard, and say Nkoli and Associates. You know what happened? FIRS, the signboard people, different agencies will be dragging you from left to right for different levels of taxes, approvals, and stuff like that. It is difficult to do business. That's what we're saying, that the government is almost an impediment to Nigerians because of the way the government is structured. This country has to be restructured. It has to be. I mean, what is the government doing, the federal government doing with driver's license? I mean, things like that. So it is difficult. If you listen to Onyema, the earpiece, and if you listen to him, you will know that we are in a serious crisis. You have a government that doesn't protect. If you look at the bilateral agreement, the BATA, what do they call that thing? Is it BATA? This thing. We are supposed to have routes to London. Do you know what it took for him to be landing in Gatwick instead of Heathrow? They refused. Meanwhile, it is our right because it is, when you have a government, you have a sitting government that should protect Nigeria, to say if they have elected him as the national carrier for Nigerians, he should enjoy the benefits. But this is not what the issues are. We must have a government that looks at the Nigerian people, that protects the Nigerian people and Nigerian interests, not interests of neo-colonialists and imperialists. We must protect the Nigerian people to say, this is what is good for Nigeria, this is what we're going to do. Not IMF, not World Bank, they can bring their own suggestions and ideas. But ultimately, we should take policies and institute measures that will protect the Nigerian economy, empower the Nigerian people, and to promote Nigerian interests. For goodness sake, Nigeria is a very serious country in Africa. A very serious country. We have the largest economy in Africa. And I'm sure if we rebase our economy again, the figures will jump up. And like I look at this administration, they are always looking, these APC people, they are always looking at propaganda, half-truths, and lies. There are real ways to rebase the Nigerian economy. The last time we did it was in the time of Goodluck Jonathan. Do you know, according to these World Bank people that I don't like, you have about 67% of the Nigerian economy is in the informal sector. You also have the liquidity ratio. That is the number of Nigerians that are under government regulation and protection. That is Nigerians that are banked. Is very small. So if you expand the Nigerians that are banked, covered by the financial sector, and move MSMEs, small and medium scale businesses that are the engine room of the Nigerian economy, move them to the formal sector, that figure will jump, trust me, to over $1 billion. But they are not having that kind of intelligent conversation because first and foremost, they don't even have a plan, a blueprint. All this knee-jerk arrangement, you just wake up one morning, fuel subsidy is gone. Wake up one morning, change national anthem. Wake up another morning, no.
Absolutely.
No. And trust me, Nkoli, I am going to protest too.
Well, it still bottles down to the corruption you mentioned about, which is systemic. It's quite tragic that, bemusedly, Nigeria continues to loiter, around starting lines when other countries have already, moved forward. And as the biggest, country in Africa, I think there needs to be more, needs to be done. And I think now is the time.
All right, Thomas, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this one. Adakule Ijoge has joined us. He's a political economist talking about the ease of doing business in Nigeria and how to encourage local investors to move businesses forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
having me. I hope someone has
Thank
listened and the needful will be done, really.
Absolutely.
And, if you look at